Hi everyone, today's video is about the themes in Annie's Spectacles, and this week we're looking at the theme of women in 5 quick quotes. So if you're asked to write an essay on women, or if you're asked to think about the respective parts that are played by women in the play, this is definitely the video for you to watch. I'm Zoe Sophie from Past English GCSE. I've got various videos on my YouTube channel all about Annie's Spectacles and other English related topics. Please feel free to check out my video, and if you like what you see, subscribe. So first off, looking at women in the play, obviously you've got Lady Croft, but she's only mentioned very briefly, so I've not mentioned her here. You've got Mrs Birling and you've got Sheila Birling. Obviously I don't need to tell you they're women, but people think of these two first. They tend to forget about Edna the parlourmaid, who, as you can see here, is lower class, or at least working class. She serves the Birlings. And of course Eva Smith, who, although she doesn't speak directly, she's dead, there is some reported speech, and also people talk about her. So really the 4 key women are here, and look at their social classes. You could mention Lady Croft right at the upper class end there, but you've got Mrs Birling, who really sort of represents that too, and you've got her daughter Sheila, who changes the most in the play. Quote number 1 is coming from the stage directions. Now you'll see this in my Edna video. If you haven't seen that, do check it out. I just talk about Edna in that video. But right at the start we've got these opening stage directions, and they're really important. They say Edna, the parlourmaid, is just clearing the table, and then they've got the rest of the stage directions about other people. So you've got then his wife is about 50, so this is Mrs Birling, a rather cold woman and her husband's social superior. And you've got Sheila. Sheila is a pretty girl in her early 20s, very pleased with life and rather excited. Now I have sort of taken some bits out, as you can see from the ellipsis here. I've taken out some bits in between, but you've got the opening stage directions for 3 of the 4 women that I mentioned. Obviously Edna is defined by her role. She's a parlourmaid, and look, the verb cleaning, it really sort of defines her. She is a cleaner. She is defined by her job because she's working class. Whereas you've got his wife, and we've learned that is Sybil Birling. I've talked about this in my Sybil Birling video, Mrs Birling video. Please feel free to look at that too. You've got the adjective cold, as in she's not a warm person. And it mentions that she's her husband's social superior, which relates to class, which is a separate theme which I'll be coming to make a video about too. So please subscribe to the channel to see that one. You can go and check it out when it's up. But that's a class reference there, but also about her being socially superior. You remember the table I showed you right at the beginning with the classes on it. There's a reference there to class. So you've got the adjective again, sort of social superior. If you're superior, if you're described as being superior, you're seen as being better than others. And then you've got Sheila, who's different again. She's got the adjective pretty. And I've talked about this in my Sheila video. Sort of implies that she is quite pleasant to look at. She's attractive. She's defined by her looks, which given her age, maybe that makes sense because she wants to make a good marriage. Women of her class would do that. They would seek to make the best marriage possible, and the parents would usually be involved with that. Very pleased with life and rather excited. So she almost sounds childish when you consider that there's probably, I don't know how old Edna is, and we never really find out. Edna could be anything from her age upwards. You've got Edna the parlourmaid, who's actually doing all the work, and then you've got the wife feeling better than everybody else, and then Sheila is described almost in these childish terms, pleased with life and rather excited. So you've got the intensifier there, very. Does it make her sound smug? Possibly. These are things that you could make references to. So the 3 women we're introduced to right at the start, this is how they come across. This would count under quote number 1. Quote number 2. Now this is introducing, or we've come to understand there is Eva Smith, and the inspector is talking about her. Now I picked this quote because you've got this reported speech here. This is as close to Ava's direct speech as we're ever going to get in the whole play, so I wanted to draw your attention to it. Reported speech, just to make it last longer. So obviously it's the inspector talking about her. She kept a rough sort of diary, and she said there that she had to go away and be quiet and remember, just to make it last longer. She felt there'd never be anything as good again for her, so she had to make it last longer, and you've got the repetition there. Now of course this is about her affair with Gerald Croft. She obviously loved him. He ditched her when it was apparent it wasn't going to work, and I think both of them knew it was never going to work from the start because of their class differences. But you've got this sort of comparative here, last longer than it did. So that's called a comparative, the ER ending there. And this really sort of implies a longing and a desperation. So the closest we get to her own words are wanting more, which I suppose if you look about Eva as a character, and I have made a video about her, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already, you'll see that she is a character that sort of wants more in the situation that she's been given in life. She kept a rough sort of diary. The diary is sort of symbolic, really. What of? We've got her sort of unheard voice, and it requires the inspector to read it out and for her voice to be heard. She is obviously dead. So just to make it last longer, if you just remember this bit for her quote, that would give you something, you know, an introduction to Eva Smith and probably the closest to her actually being able to speak in the whole play. Quote number 3 is Mrs Birling in Act 2. She was giving herself ridiculous airs. She was claiming elaborate fine feelings and scruples that were simply absurd in a girl in her position. Now you can hear the snobbery in her tone. And I picked it because it says girl, so it links to women, this femininity. Calling her a girl is sort of quite a childish term of address there, rather than a woman. Again, it infantilizes her. It makes her sound like a child. It's rather derogatory. It's rude. Scruples, if you don't know what they mean, they're principles. So your values, what you believe in. She was claiming elaborate fine feelings. These two adjectives here. Fine feelings and values. Her class meant that she couldn't have these. So this is a really good quote as well for class. So if you ever get a question on social class, I think this is an excellent close for that as well. But it's Mrs Birling being rude, derogatory, snobbish about another woman who happens to be a lower class than her. I think that's interesting for an essay about women. So I've brought this up for that. Look, ridiculous airs, adjectives. These adjectives are quite, this one is ridiculous, very negative. Elaborate fine feelings and scruples that were simply absurd. Again, negative adjective. You could get these quotes, you could annotate them the way I'm doing, sort of like a quote explosion, and then use the techniques in here, so adjectives, for example, or tone. These would be the content of what you write about in your essay and link it back to the theme of women, or in this case, you could use it for class, or you could use it about Mrs Birling. There'll be key quotes that will come up again and again and again. You'll see a pattern in these videos. Learn them, know bits of them, and then know the techniques. You've basically got your essay done. Next quote. This is Eric, nearly at breaking point. So breaking point, he's going to lose it. He's really distressed. That's what that stage direction means there. He is utterly distressed. Don't forget about stage directions. They're important. Now, why have I picked a man? Well, it's because of what he says. And look at the dashes. Dashes also are a technique. They can be for emphasis or distress or to separate thoughts. So you have to look at context to judge that. Then you killed her. So this is accusatory. He's talking, of course, to his mother. She came to you to protect me and you turned her away. Yes, you killed her. Look, repetition there as well. You killed her. Negative verb killed. It doesn't really get more negative than that. It's very aggressive. It's very violent. Violent verb killed. And the child she'd have had too. So this distressed man accusing his mother of effectively killing someone that sought to protect him. So you've got protect versus killed. You've almost got a juxtaposition in there. I'm not sure that's necessarily intentional, but it does serve to sort of separate. One woman, Ava, was trying to protect Eric even though he had broken the law. And the other woman, his mother, Mrs Birling, would do everything in her power to kill that protector and the baby. So that's quite a good quote there. Again, for women, you can make an interesting argument about that. Last quote, Gerald Croft. I did keep a girl last summer. I've admitted it. And I'm sorry, Sheila. Now, this is a good one because, again, just like before, the word girl is used. So, again, it's this childish term of address. Could it link to an overarching argument that women are seen in the same category as children, that they are infantilized, that they are made to seem young and naive and powerless? That could be your overarching argument for your essay, potentially, based on what you're given. Young, naive. Not all women, of course. You've got Mrs Birling. You could argue she's naive. Usually comes with being younger. She's certainly not powerless. So you'd have to think about which women are naive and which women aren't. Look at class, there's your clue. I did keep a girl last summer. That phrase implies, really, I mean, it almost sounds like you keep a pet. I kept a girl, so it's sort of maintenance. I kept woman. Obviously it links to the affair, but it's quite a, I don't think he means it to be derogatory, but keep a girl last summer, it's certainly derogatory in context. It's not, it's sort of frowned upon. He kept a girl. It wasn't a girlfriend. I've admitted it and I'm sorry. At least you've got some responsibility here. Don't get sidetracked onto the theme of responsibility if that's not your question, but you could say some responsibility for women. He's apologising to Sheila. Is he sorry to Ava? No. He gave her a lot as well as took a lot. So that's a debatable one. You can think about that for yourselves. But he does apologise to a woman. So you could argue there, are women powerless? Well, actually, she does get an apology out of him and she does have the power to leave him. She doesn't take the ring back. She's not entirely powerless. So you've got to think about social class. Her mother and her have got the ability to say no, to turn people down, to end things. Edna and Eva, though, not convinced. They don't have that kind of power. So again, it really is related to class. In summary then, women are presented from all social classes. They're often portrayed through their interactions with men. Notice that in the quotes. It's either men talking about them. They're definitely portrayed through their interactions with men if you go and look over the play. They're governed strongly by their class. And I think there's a link between class and women because it's really your social class that governs your power as a woman and what you can do. Edna doesn't have any power. She knows she doesn't. So she doesn't say very much. She's still my favourite character, of course, because she seems to be the only one in the play that can make a cup of tea. For me, that makes her the best character. But in terms of her power, she is somewhat limited. Same with Ava. Ava tried to rebel against Mr. Birling. She tried for more money. It didn't end well for her. She's lower class. He turfed her out. Either use or ornament. This is a saying you can attribute to a person, neither use nor ornament. Women seem to be fashioned as one of the two. Men sort of make their own way, if you like, in Mr. Birling's speech. But women are either pretty. Pretty would be ornament. So Sheila to make a good marriage to look nice. Remember the ring episode? Oh, is it the one you wanted me to have? She's very much the pretty ornament that will make the trophy wife for him. Use, Edna, making the tea. Are they ever both? Perhaps Mrs. Birling, she's the ornamental wife of sorts, and she has her committees and her committee power, but that's probably as close as you're going to get. Again, it's linked to class. In summary, any essay you write, I think, should be linked to women and their class, because that will tell you their power in the play. I hope this is helpful. Please feel free to check out my website if you want any further information about my tutoring. If you found this video useful, please feel free to give it a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. I'd be grateful for any or all of those. And please feel free to comment if you've got any thoughts on the women in the play. Thank you so much for watching.